All right.
All right, crew call with the scooters. Today we have our very, very dear friend Anita Harnish with us, who is a producer extraordinaire, underground famous, as all of her friends like to say, because she knows everybody everywhere. And if she doesn't know them, she soon gets to know them because that's who she is. So thank you, Anita, for being with us.
You're welcome.
Things have been crazy, and I want to talk about that because you had a couple jobs that are postponed right now, some things from out of state and stuff. So can you give us a state of the world in production right now?
State of the freelance world of production is that it's completely shut down, and that would be anything with feature films or corporate or commercial production. So any freelance friends that I have, and Pittsburgh has a pretty large freelance population, none of us are working, like none at all. And so I had work lined up through May. I've got a couple jobs, July, August. We'll see whether those will happen or not. They may or may not. But for certain, all the stuff through May has been postponed or possibly canceled. So that was a project coming in from out of town in Detroit. I had a project in Indiana. I had one in Ohio, some potential work here. And there is absolutely nothing going on in town for anybody in the freelance realm.
What are you doing? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Quartz. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Is anyone saying anything, or what are you doing in the meantime to kind of just get ahead or think forward, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I'm applying for some full-time jobs, because why not, right? I have even put applications in at Aldi. I mean, there's no work. So, besides doing work in my basement and working in my garden, I will gladly stock shelves. Why not? Why not? Money is money. And just applying for some full-time jobs that may or may not be into production, or skill sets that may be transferable. I've spoken to other people in the industry, in the makeup and some other positions, and people are thinking, well, is this an opportunity or a time that we need to just get out of the business and move on to something else? And if so, then what would that skill be, and what would I apply? What kind of position would I be applying for? Because it's not just going to be when it turns on, it's going to turn on. Things are going to there's going to be a ramp up period at some point whenever things go back online, but that could be months away.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. You're in contact with everybody because that's who you are. So what is it? What's everybody saying out there? I mean, what's the sentiment?
It varies depending how much savings anybody has. Some people have some and some don't have any. Some have job monies still coming in for jobs, some don't. I think people are trying to tap down on a lot of depression and fear, as we all are. I think, you can easily acknowledge that it's scary, and it's okay to have a meltdown. I've been doing a lot of running. I mean, I run anyway, but I did a run in the woods on Saturday with my friend that I always run with, and we had our 6 feet of social distancing. And at one point, we both just burst into tears. She's a teacher, and now she's trying to be a teacher with 2 young ones at home. And, I finally had a stress release, and we're standing looking at each other, just bawling, but you can't touch each other. So the woods crying 10 feet apart, like each other. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do, right? So I think just trying to stay calm and look at other sources of revenue. I personally am very thankful that I have some savings set aside to tide me through. Thank goodness for tax returns. If you're in a tax refund, that's also a nice little bonus. But I think people are very concerned and very worried because we have never, ever, ever faced anything like this in our generation at all.
Right. When did production start to shut down? Because we saw it like gradually in film, but in terms of like, what does that look like? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what production looks like. So even who isn't working? We talk about what is a producer, what is that, but
so the project that was coming in from out of Detroit was a huge, gigantic production. And so I was already prepping for that, and to which I've billed some hours for. And that would have been a 3-month production, not all in Pittsburgh, some of it out of state, but Pittsburgh would have been 2.5 weeks. And there was initially a little bit of optimism when they first put some restrictions on air travel, or when it was considered that that was how a lot of this virus was spreading, right, with groups of people together. And since they were coming from Detroit, it would be driving. So you think, well, maybe it's still a go. But then as things, kept ramping up, you just saw little blips of postpone, maybe one day shoot. I mean, and just, it just accelerated, but it started probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, when you just start seeing stuff getting canceled off the radar. And then even little teeny shoots that, everyone's keeping their fingers crossed. Maybe this will happen, and nope. So, and then the feature films, I mean, think of, there were at least 2 projects in town, Rust, which I think is a Showtime series. They were ready to roll camera, I think last week. They might have gotten a couple days of production in. I mean, but there were some big projects that would have hired, that had, fully staffed crew people, a lot of them out of, local here in Pittsburgh, and they've completely shut down. And when you're a freelancer, you pay your own taxes. You are paying your own Social Security, right? Yeah. So you don't get unemployment because, well, I take that back. Maybe if you're long enough on a movie and you're getting a W-9, but for anybody that's 1099, we can't claim unemployment because we're our own boss.
Are you able to apply for any type of loans or anything that else the government's offering because of that?
I haven't looked at that as far as any kind of loans, because I don't have any. I have personal expenses, but not anything related to my business.
Okay.
I have an office, and I don't have a staff. It's just me, the individual. So I know there are small business loans out there in Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, but I've not applied. I'm not pursuing that because my guess is I wouldn't even qualify for it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what comes through for any kind of, monetary contribution from the government to tide people over, but that still has not been decided yet.
Right.
Did you see $100 million Netflix? They just announced it. Coronavirus Relief Fund. Have you seen that? Netflix.
I saw that. I didn't really dive deep into that because I think that's mainly appealing to the motion picture industry, I think.
Okay.
Read that yet, but that would, I guess, because feature films are shut down all across the country, not just in Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah. We saw it on the PAFIA Instagram. I just saw it. Just came through right before we got on the
okay
on the call here.
Yeah.
So how do you, so you're running more, which is good. And you're
demolition in the basement. That's how I really
gardening.
My best way of dealing with stress is to walk away from the computer and destroy something. So, or build something. And so I've been doing work in my basement. The demolition is done. I wish there was still a little bit more, because taking a hammer to something right now would be feel really good. But scrub anything to physically exhaust me, whether it's a run in the woods or whatever. I mean, that actually does well to stave off any kind of stress, at least for me. I know that's not the same for everybody. And just, try to stay calm. Literally trying to stay calm and talk with dear friends who are on the same wavelength with how I view life, helps.
Yeah. You're really close with all of your neighbors too out there. You have a really, really close community. Can you talk about what's going on in your neighborhood?
We're waving at each other. We're talking in the street. We leave stuff for each other on each other's porches. A friend of mine who is a web designer, and she's now homeschooling 2 of her kids. She wanted to know if I had certain seeds so that they can at least plant something, and I did. And then she's like, I'm making a grocery store run. Do you need anything? And I'm like, yes. So it's like you do the swap on the porch. And I saw another neighbor in the alley yesterday who is also a teacher, and she's just, losing her mind. And once again, we would never talk at a distance, but now you're talking at a distance. And then some friends that are musicians down the street who have put on like 3 concerts on Facebook, which is great. Yeah, and my next door neighbor who's a carpenter, he's going to do a little work in my backyard, but everything is like at a distance, you know.
Right.
Yeah, we do, and I check in. I have some retired neighbors across the street, husband and wife. I always shovel their driveway and take in their trash can, but I'm in touch with them to see if they need some grocery runs. So yeah, we are, you know, living in the city, you get to know your neighbors and definitely try to check in on each other.
Right. What's been your biggest kind of aha moment during this whole thing? Have you had one of those things that kind of keep you really calm, or things that you're kind of going, wow, I never thought people would act like that, or yeah, wow, they really stepped it up? Or
I've never been one for like the disaster movies. So, you know, I know people talk about Contagion and other films, and that's never been the genre of films that I've watched.
Yeah.
But to think, holy crap, something that originated out of Wuhan, China has impacted the entire world. That is just, it's mind blowing. And we don't know for how long. And we're learning new terminology, you know, flatten the curve, social distance, all this verbiage that was never in my vocabulary. And now it is. And as a person, as both of you know, I love to hug. Here we go.
I know.
As, oh my gosh, I have to put that on the back burner for a while.
yeah, I know.
You know? So yeah, it's just, it's a big deal. It's like, I kind of thought it was a big deal when I think I started hearing about it 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I follow a lot of journalists on Twitter, but and it was, you know, I was always like, you know, I think of my mother lived through the Depression, through World War II. She was a nurse. She worked with AIDS patients during the AIDS epidemic. It's impacting older people. I don't consider myself in the target area, you know, but no, this is a big deal, right? And it can impact anybody.
Yeah.
And so we all need to do our part of what we can do to flatten that curve, as they say.
They are saying that a lot.
Yes, they are.
So we just heard probably about 2 hours ago that Delaware shut down until May 15th.
Oh, really? They just did Allegheny County. Did you see them announce 2:00 here for 14 days shelter in place? Which I know they're just trying to put a little more pressure on. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. You're allowed to go out to exercise. You're allowed to go out to the grocery store. But do you really have to go to the grocery store? Like, you know.
Right.
I'll tell you what's interesting is to think of who the frontline workers are now. I mean, medical people, you always think, right? First responders, absolutely. But now it's grocery store workers.
Yeah.
And anyone who ever has dismissed anyone that has worked in the food industry or trucking industry, right now, I mean, the trucking industry, that's how we're getting our food, right? And thank God that grocery store workers are working and scanning your food so you have food in your house.
It's true.
No, you're 1,000% right. I mean, it is so scary. We talked to Nisha Black from Knotsland. Yeah, and she got the call over the weekend, I think, to make masks. So they are now making masks. Yeah.
Oh my.
I know. And she's just doing it. I mean, she's so committed to her ecosphere of sewers that she's created. But yeah, so they're making masks.
Are they having people donate material? What is she doing for material?
I don't know. I just saw it on our Instagram because we did the interview. It's
Thursday.
Yeah, and she got the call over the weekend. So I just saw the stuff go up. So I think it's unbelievable. You're seeing people, just kind of the goodness of people. I think that's the one thing I'm really seeing.
It brings back, if you look at things that happened in World War II and all the little, you know, notices of what people would make, or not be so hoard, like some of the behaviors from World War II to help the war efforts, so to speak. And so I have a lot of friends who are seamstresses. I'm a seamstress, but you know, it's like, do I try this, or would the person who got my mask may not want it after I?
Hey, you just are trying. I
I
couldn't
have
even
to talk to
try.
Nisha about that.
Well, like Joanne Fabric did a tutorial, they've posted stuff, and all my friends who are seamstresses are making masks. And then Connor Lamb was running around picking up from various industries like MSA, other or construction companies who are like, here, take them, take the N95s, take our respirators, take it to the medical community that really needs it.
They definitely.
No, amazing. It really is amazing. Well, just on a lighter note, you're always reading something or baking something,
Or watching some series that I've never heard of.
I know some part. Well, I do know you have a lamb fascination. Are you still?
I love one of these years. My bucket list is to work somewhere where there's lambing going on, preferably over in England, or I follow a lot of shepherds. Actually, it's kind
I know
of.
you do.
I follow one in Switzerland and several in the Lake District. And right now is lambing season.
Oh.
It's not for the faint of heart, but my mother was a nurse, so I love blood and gore. None of that scares me. And I am just obsessed with watching all these new baby lambs and baby goats, and I can't help myself.
What's one fun fact about lambing?
Yeah. Well, what is lambing season?
Yeah.
What is that? That sounds horrible.
So lambing season is when, if you were a shepherd, that's when all your lambs are born. And they try to, like, they would have a very sturdy, healthy tup, which is a male, sheep, months before, obviously. They spray, I'm just going to give you a little lesson here. So they spray the undercarriage of the tup, and they let them loose in the field with, 100 ewes. Because the guy gets around. They just do. That's how it is with sheep. And then they look at the backside of the ewes, and if there's paint, then they know that the tup and the ewe got together. And then they start watching to see if the ewe is pregnant. And then they will go in the field. Sometimes they'll take a portable sonogram, and they'll scan to see whether it's carrying single, twins, or triplets. They'll mark the ewe. And then when they know about the due date, they bring all the ewes into either this massive shed, depending how big the operations are, or just down from the fields. And then they just start delivering babies. And it's amazing. It's just these little baby lambs. I can't get enough of it.
Aww.
So
wow.
So they help deliver.
Yeah.
Well, how many? So what's your favorite shepherd that you're paying attention to on Instagram right now?
Red shepherdess. So she's got red hair. She's actually done started doing some TV, and just like women in agriculture, and farming is a big deal, just to give that some publicity. So I think she's on to her third site now. So she is a hired gun that goes and helps deliver babies.
Wow.
And it's just like it's all hands on deck, and there's just baby, like they're popping left and right. And there's a couple ways. Sometimes if there's an orphan lamb, there's ways to get that orphan lamb. Let's say the orphan lamb's mother died or did not accept it. There's ways to get another ewe to adopt that lamb, but I don't want to go into that because that can be considered kind of gory, but it actually really works because I already watched the video.
But whoever would get the video, they can go and watch that video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then let's see, food. I have been doing a lot of crock pot stuff. So you get your bags of frozen chicken breast or tilapia, and a place like Trader Joe's, you take a jar of like their island salsa, which has pineapple and mango and peppers. Throw some chicken breast, frozen chicken breast, throw a jar of that in a crock pot, and I add carrots and onions and whatever, and just let it go for like 4 to 6 hours, and then you have food for like 3-4 days, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Sounds good.
It does.
Yeah.
We would come over, but we're not allowed.
You're not allowed. You can leave it on the porch, though. Like you said.
Yeah.
Little packages.
Care package.
Exactly.
Scooter.
Well, and, we love you, as you know, and thank you for doing this.
Of course. Yeah. Are you going to talk to a bunch of other people?
Yeah. So we talked to our friend Nathan Wadding.
Okay.
From Skinny Time Media, and we talked to Doug Smith from Light of Life. And who else are we talking to?
You talked to
We have a big Sid the Kid, Sydney Goldman. Yep, we're talking to her. Yep.
Kate Kennedy.
Kate Kennedy. So Payne and Brandy Schimpf, the mayor up there, we talked to them as well. It's just, it's great. It's rural, you know.
Yes.
Different when you get out of the city because everything is small business. And, you know, it's livelihoods it's on the line. So it's crazy. Everybody's talking about the stimulus package and what's going on with the government, and it's real crazy. So trying to keep those spirits up and keep people moving on that end too. So, yeah.
I will say the other thing I'm doing is I'm actually, now that everything's online, and that's the one of the amazing things to see so much art on the internet now, whether that's creating art or someone playing an instrument. And I have loved to watch, you know, individual artists do a little concert, right? Or that some of the symphonies now are streaming. So, and I love classical music. So to keep the panic at bay, I will turn on YouTube, and I've listened to the Philadelphia Symphony and some other symphonies, and it's an 1.5 hour long concert, and they're playing in empty halls now. You know, some of them are just going ahead and doing a performance in an empty hall, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful. So, yeah.
Well, good.
Helping for a little.
Yeah.
I think a little bit helps. Hopefully we're not in this for the long haul. Hopefully this is sooner than later, because there's a lot of people that are out of work now. And
and I feel bad for all the college students, you know, that are not going to be able to walk down the aisle. Or high, you know, whether it's a senior in high school or a college senior, it's just like, wow.
Right.
I'm in contact with some college students through my church, and some of them are back home, some of them are local. And since we're not having church now, actually, I'm going to be doing a Zoom this evening just to check in with them.
Yeah,
that's great.
Back home. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Anita.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
Bye.
Awesome. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.